You're fired. Clear out your office and don't let me see your face in this building again. My father's words cut through the boardroom like a blade through glass. Loren Garrison, founder and CEO of Garrison Industrial Solutions, sat behind his mahogany desk with the same expression he'd worn when disciplining me as a child, cold disappointment mixed with barely controlled anger. In front of him lay a stack of printed emails, each one bearing my name and signature. Email after email detailing confidential client information, pricing strategies, and proprietary manufacturing processes, all apparently sent from my computer to our biggest competitor, Apex Precision Industries. "Dad, I didn't send these," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. "Someone's setting me up." "The evidence is right here, Nathan," he replied, tapping the papers with his finger. "Your email address, your computer, your access codes. 10 years I've trusted you with this company's secrets, and this is how you repay me." Behind him stood my younger brother Garrett, 32 to my 38, wearing the same navy suit he'd worn to every board meeting for the past 5 years. But today something was different in his expression. Not shock or sympathy for his older brother being accused of corporate espionage. Satisfaction. "I'm sorry it came to this, Nathan," Garrett said, his voice carrying just the right note of reluctant disappointment. "But the board had to know about these security breaches." I looked at my father, the man I'd spent 15 years trying to please, hoping to see even a flicker of doubt about his golden child's accusations. Instead, I saw only the familiar pattern that had defined our family for decades. Garrett could do no wrong, and I could do nothing right. "Dad," I said calmly, "you're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made was trusting you with sensitive information," he replied. "Security will escort you out." As I stood to leave, clutching my dignity like armor, I glanced back at Garrett. He was already settling into the chair beside our father's desk. My chair, the one I'd earned through 15 years of 60-hour weeks in crisis management. They had no idea that moment was the starting point for my comeback. If you crave real gripping stories where justice hits hard and betrayal never goes unpunished, this channel is your new favorite place. Please subscribe. 3 years later, their company had collapsed while I built an empire with their biggest competitor. Garrett was facing federal embezzlement charges, and my father was desperately trying to sell what remained of Garrison Industrial to pay legal fees and creditors. But let me take you back to the day my own family betrayed me. My name is Nathan Garrison, and for 15 years, I'd built my entire identity around one thing: proving myself worthy of the family legacy. Garrison Industrial Solutions manufactured precision components for aerospace and defense contractors. Founded by my father Loren in 1985, the company had grown from a small machine shop in Cleveland to a $200 million operation with facilities across Ohio and Pennsylvania. It was the kind of business that demanded technical expertise, client relationships, and operational excellence, qualities I'd spent my career developing. From the day I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree, I'd poured everything into Garrison Industrial Solutions. I started on the factory floor, learning every machine, understanding every process, building relationships with the workers who actually made our products. While other executives managed from their offices, I spent time in production, quality control, and shipping, understanding the business from the ground up. My contributions were measurable and significant. I designed the quality control systems that earned us ISO 9001 certification. I'd negotiated the long-term contracts with Boeing and Lockheed Martin that represented 40% of our revenue. When the 2008 financial crisis hit the aerospace industry, I'd restructured our operations to maintain profitability while competitors went bankrupt. But none of that seemed to matter to my father. Loren Garrison was 68 years old, with silver hair and the commanding presence that came from building something from nothing. He'd grown up working class, started his business in a rented garage, and turned it into a regional powerhouse through sheer determination and business acumen. Unfortunately, he'd also spent my entire life making it clear that his younger son was the heir apparent to everything he'd built. Garrett had joined the company 5 years ago with an MBA from Northwestern and absolutely no manufacturing experience. While I'd spent 15 years earning my expertise, Garrett had been hired directly into a vice president role, given a corner office, and treated like the future of Garrison Industrial from day one. The favoritism wasn't subtle. At board meetings, my father would ask for my technical analysis, then turn to Garrett for strategic perspective. When we landed major contracts, Garrett got credit for vision and leadership, while my role was described as operational support. During company events, my father would proudly introduce Garrett as the future of this company, while I was simply Nathan, our production manager. I told myself it didn't matter. The work spoke for itself. Clients respected my expertise. Employees trusted my judgment. The company succeeded because of the systems I'd built and the relationships I'd cultivated. Eventually, my father would recognize that competence mattered more than birth order. I was wrong about that. The trap was sprung on a Tuesday morning in early October, during what I thought would be a routine quarterly review meeting. I arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m. as I had every day for 15 years. The production floor was already humming with activity, first shift had started at 6, and I liked to walk through operations before settling into administrative duties. My assistant, Catherine, was already at her desk when I reached the administrative wing. "Morning, Nathan. Your father wants to see you in the boardroom at 8. Something about a security review." At 5 minutes before 8, I walked up to the third-floor boardroom, expecting to find our usual quarterly review team. Instead, I found my father sitting alone at the head of the conference table, with a stack of printed documents in front of him and an expression I'd never seen before, cold fury mixed with personal betrayal. "Sit down, Nathan," he said without looking up from the papers. He slid the stack of documents across the table. "Explain these." I picked up the first sheet and felt my stomach drop. It was an email, printed from our company server, showing my name as the sender and my company email address in the header. The recipient was James Morrison, Vice President of Business Development at Apex Precision Industries. The content was devastating. "Jim, per our discussion, attached are the technical specifications for our new aerospace line. Pricing matrix shows our margins on the Boeing contract. You'll want to undercut by at least 8% to guarantee the win. Also included are our quality control protocols and supplier lists. Let me know if you need additional information for your proposal. Nathan." I stared at the email, reading it 3 times before the full implications hit me. This wasn't just sharing confidential information with a competitor, this was active sabotage of our own business interests. "Dad, I didn't write this," I said, looking up from the paper. "I've never communicated with anyone at Apex Precision about our business. This is fake." He slid another document across the table. Then another. Then another. Email after email, each one showing my name and address as the sender, each one containing increasingly detailed information about Garrison Industrial's operations. Client lists, pricing strategies, proprietary manufacturing processes, employee salary information, strategic planning documents, a comprehensive intelligence package that would allow a competitor to systematically undermine our business. 12 emails over the past 6 months, my father said, his voice trembling with controlled anger. Sent from your computer, using your access codes, containing information only you had access to. "Dad, someone's setting me up," I said, my voice steady despite the panic building in my chest. "I would never betray this company. You know that." The boardroom door opened and Garrett walked in, wearing the same navy suit he wore to every important meeting. But his expression wasn't surprised or confused, it was carefully composed, like someone who knew exactly what was happening. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, "but I thought you should know that I've confirmed the emails with our IT department. They were definitely sent from Nathan's computer during hours when only he had building access." I turned to look at my brother, studying his face for any sign of uncertainty or sympathy. Instead, I saw the same calculated composure he'd displayed during board presentations, confident, professional, and completely in control of the narrative. "Garrett," I said slowly, "do you really believe I would betray this company?" He met my eyes without flinching. "I believe the evidence speaks for itself. This is devastating for all of us, but we can't ignore what's right in front of us." My father stood up, his decision clearly made. "Nathan, you're terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Consider yourself lucky that we're handling this internally instead of involving law enforcement." 2 security guards arrived as I was packing my personal items. I recognized both of them, Tom and Steve, guys I'd worked with during facility upgrades and safety training. They looked uncomfortable but professional. "Sorry about this, Mr. Garrison," Tom said quietly. "Company policy requires us to escort terminated employees from the building." I walked out of Garrison Industrial Solutions carrying a cardboard box and 15 years of professional reputation that had been destroyed in 15 minutes. As the security guards locked the door behind me, I realized that proving my innocence would be the hardest project I'd ever managed. Fortunately, I'd always been good at solving complex problems. The first week after my termination was the darkest period of my adult life. I sat in my apartment, staring at job search websites and trying to process how 15 years of exemplary service could be wiped out by fabricated emails and family politics. But by the second week, anger began replacing shock, and with anger came clarity. Someone had systematically destroyed my career and reputation. If I was going to rebuild my life, I needed to understand exactly who had done this and how they'd managed it. I started with the basics. The emails had been sent from my computer using my access codes during hours when only I supposedly had building access. This meant either I'd sent them, which I hadn't, or someone else had gained unauthorized access to both my computer and the building. I called Catherine from a coffee shop near the plant. "Catherine, I need a favor, and I understand if you can't help me. But I need you to know that I didn't send those emails." "Nathan, I've worked with you for 8 years, she replied immediately. "You're the most ethical person in this company. Everyone knows you didn't do this. Can you check the building access logs for the nights those emails were sent? I need to know who else was in the building." 2 days later, Catherine called from her home. "Nathan, you need to hear this. I checked the access logs for all 12 email dates. Your keycard shows you entering and leaving the building during normal business hours, but the emails were sent between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Who else was in the building during those times? Only one other person had consistent access during those late-night hours. Garrett's keycard shows him entering the building around 9:30 p.m. on 11 of the 12 nights when emails were sent. He left between 2:30 and 3 a.m. each time. The pattern was clear, but I needed more evidence. For technical expertise, I contacted Alex Jordan, our former IT director who'd left Garrison Industrial 6 months earlier to start his own cybersecurity consulting firm. "Nathan, I heard what happened," Alex said when I called. I didn't believe it for a second. Catherine provided copies of the fabricated emails and system access logs from the nights they were sent. Alex spent 3 days analyzing the digital evidence. "Nathan, whoever did this was sophisticated but not expert level," Alex explained, showing me his analysis. "The emails were sent using remote desktop access, someone logging into your computer from another location within the company network. Can you prove who did it? Better than that. I can prove when your password was compromised and show you exactly which computer was used to access your system." Alex pulled up network logs showing remote access attempts to my computer. Someone tried multiple password combinations before successfully gaining access. The successful login came from a computer registered to Garrett Garrison. But Alex's most important discovery was hidden in the metadata of the fabricated emails themselves. These emails weren't just sent from your account, they were drafted and saved as templates first. Someone spent considerable time crafting each message to sound authentic. The technical analysis proved what I'd known intuitively. This was a sophisticated conspiracy to destroy my career. But it also raised a more troubling question. Why had Garrett gone to such elaborate lengths to frame me? The answer came from Janet Wheeler, Garrison Industrial's senior accountant. 3 weeks after my termination, she called me at home. "Nathan, I need to speak with you privately," she said. "There are things happening at the company that don't make sense, and I think they're connected to what happened to you." We met at a restaurant across town. Janet looked nervous but determined. "I've been noticing irregularities in our financial reports," she began. "Nothing obvious, but patterns that don't add up. Vendor payments, expense accounts, inventory adjustments, small discrepancies that individually seem like bookkeeping errors." "How small are we talking about?" "Individual transactions of $5,000 to $15,000. But over the past 2 years, I estimate we're missing close to $800,000. I stared at her. "Missing how?" "Payments to vendors that don't exist. Expense accounts with receipts that can't be verified. Inventory write-offs that don't match our quality control records. Someone has been systematically skimming money from company operations." She showed me invoices for consulting services paid to companies that had no obvious business relationship with Garrison Industrial. Expense reports for business trips that didn't appear on Garrett's calendar. Equipment purchases that never appeared in our inventory system. "Janet, this is embezzlement." "I think so too. But when I approached your father with questions about these transactions, he told me to focus on my own responsibilities and stop questioning executive decisions." The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Garrett hadn't just framed me out of sibling rivalry or inheritance concerns. He'd framed me to cover up his own criminal activity. "Janet, would you be willing to document all of this? Create a comprehensive analysis of the suspicious transactions." "That's why I called you," she replied. "I can't stay quiet about this anymore." That night, I sat in my apartment reviewing Janet's financial analysis and Alex's technical evidence. Together, they painted a clear picture of elaborate criminal conspiracy. Garrett had been embezzling company funds for 2 years, then framed me for corporate espionage to eliminate the person most likely to expose his theft. It was time to transform from victim to strategic player in my own vindication. Before taking any external action, I knew I had to make one final attempt to restore family relationships through honesty and evidence. Despite everything that had happened, my father deserved a chance to understand the truth about his sons. I called Lauren's office and asked Catherine to schedule a meeting. When she told me he'd refused to see me, I decided on direct confrontation. On a Thursday morning, I arrived at Garrison Industrial at 7 a.m. and walked past security like I still belonged there. I found my father in his office, reviewing production reports with his usual morning focus. "You're not supposed to be in this building, Nathan. We need to talk," I said, stepping into his office and closing the door behind me. "I have information you need to see." "I have nothing to say to you. Dad, Garrett has been embezzling money from the company for 2 years. He framed me to cover up his own crimes. I have proof." Lauren's hand moved toward his phone, but he paused. "Proof of what?" I placed Alex's technical analysis on his desk. Computer forensics showing that my emails were sent using remote access from Garrett's computer. Network logs proving he accessed my system multiple times. Digital evidence that the communications were fabricated. He glanced at the documents but didn't pick them up. Anyone can fake computer logs. "Look at these financial records," I continued, adding Janet's analysis to the pile. $800,000 in suspicious transactions over 2 years. Fake vendors, falsified expenses, inventory write-offs that don't exist. All approved by Garrett. My father spent 10 minutes reviewing the evidence, his expression becoming more troubled as he absorbed the implications. For a moment, I felt hopeful that logic and documentation would overcome bias and favoritism. Then Garrett walked into the office. "Catherine told me Nathan was here," he said, immediately taking control of the situation. "I thought you might need backup." "Your brother is making serious accusations," Loren said, holding up the financial analysis. Garrett glanced at the documents, his expression shifting from surprise to concern to disappointment. "Nathan, this is really low even for you. You're so desperate to clear your name that you're willing to accuse me of crimes?" "The evidence speaks for itself," I replied. "Computer logs, financial records, documented patterns of theft and deception. Evidence can be manipulated," Garrett said smoothly. "You have technical skills and access to people who could create whatever documentation serves your narrative." My father looked back and forth between his sons, clearly struggling with conflicting evidence and emotions. I could see the internal battle, the objective businessman reviewing concerning financial data versus the father protecting his favored child. Unfortunately, the father won. "Nathan, I want you to listen carefully," Loren said, pushing the documents back across his desk. "These accusations are serious and destructive. If you pursue this vendetta against your brother, you'll destroy this family and this company." "Dad, I'm not pursuing a vendetta. I'm presenting evidence of criminal activity." The conversation continued for another 30 minutes, but the outcome was predetermined. Every piece of evidence I presented was dismissed as fabrication or desperation. Every logical argument was countered with emotional manipulation about family loyalty and forgiveness. "Nathan, I'm going to say this once and never again," Loren finally said. "Your brother may have made some accounting mistakes, but he's not a criminal. You, on the other hand, definitively betrayed this company by sharing confidential information with competitors." "What about the $800,000? I asked quietly. "Garrett will review the transactions Janet identified and correct any bookkeeping errors." I picked up the documents from his desk and stood to leave. "You're making a choice, Dad. Between the son who's been stealing from you and the son who's been trying to save your company. I'm making a choice between the son who admits mistakes and asks for forgiveness, and the son who tears down his family to avoid consequences. If you make this public, Nathan, you'll never be welcome in this family again." I walked out of Garrison Industrial for what I knew would be the last time as Loren Garrison's son. But I was also walking toward something new, a career built on competence rather than family connection. That evening I made 3 phone calls that would transform my life. The first was to James Morrison at Apex Precision Industries. "Mr. Morrison, my name is Nathan Garrison. I believe you received some emails allegedly from me containing confidential information about my former company. Mr. Garrison, I was wondering when you'd contact us. Those communications were unexpected. They were fabricated as part of an internal conspiracy to frame me for corporate espionage. I have technical proof that the emails were forged, and I'd like to discuss the situation with you and your team." "That's a serious allegation." Would you be willing to meet and present your evidence? I would. And I'd also like to discuss potential career opportunities with Apex Precision Industries. The second call was to the FBI's white-collar crime division. I'd like to report embezzlement and conspiracy at a manufacturing company in Cleveland. I have financial records and computer forensics evidence documenting the crimes. The third call was to myself, a promise that I would never again allow family relationships to override professional integrity and personal self-respect. The next phase of my life was about to begin. The meeting with Apex Precision Industries took place 1 week after my final confrontation with my father. I arrived at their corporate headquarters in Akron carrying Alex's technical analysis, Janet's financial documentation, and 15 years of industry expertise that was about to find a new home. James Morrison was everything my father wasn't: direct, analytical, and interested in competence rather than politics. He listened carefully as I explained the fabricated emails, presented the computer forensics evidence, and outlined Garrett's embezzlement scheme. "This is sophisticated criminal activity," Morrison said after reviewing the documentation. "Your brother created false evidence of corporate espionage to cover up his own embezzlement." "That's correct. And he succeeded in convincing my father that I was the criminal." "What are your intentions regarding this evidence?" "I've reported the embezzlement to federal authorities. Beyond that, I'm focused on rebuilding my career with an organization that values competence and integrity." Morrison smiled. "Nathan, we've been trying to compete with Garrison Industrial for years, but we've always been at a disadvantage because of your operational expertise and client relationships. Would you be interested in joining Apex Precision as our Director of Operations?" The offer was better than I'd dared hope: a senior leadership position with a $180,000 base salary, plus equity participation and performance bonuses. More importantly, it was an opportunity to prove my worth based on results rather than family politics. I started at Apex Precision Industries 3 weeks later, immediately diving into operational assessments and strategic planning. The company had strong financial resources and ambitious growth plans, but they lacked the manufacturing expertise and client relationships necessary to compete with established players like Garrison Industrial. That was exactly what I brought to the table. My first project was conducting a comprehensive competitive analysis of Garrison Industrial's operations. After 15 years inside the company, I knew their strengths, weaknesses, client relationships, and strategic vulnerabilities better than anyone outside the organization. "Their quality control systems are excellent because I designed them," I explained during my first presentation to Apex Precision's executive team. "But their production scheduling is inefficient because they're still using processes I developed 8 years ago. With the right investments, we can offer better delivery times and competitive pricing." Within 6 months, I had restructured Apex Precision's manufacturing operations, implemented quality control systems that exceeded aerospace industry standards, and begun systematically competing for contracts that Garrison Industrial considered secure. The results were immediate and measurable. Our bid success rate increased from 30% to 75%. Production efficiency improved by 40%. Client satisfaction scores reached the highest levels in company history. "Nathan, you've transformed this company," Morrison told me during my first annual review. "We're not just competing with Garrison Industrial anymore, we're beating them consistently." The success felt different from anything I'd experienced at my family's company. At Garrison Industrial, my achievements had been minimized or credited to others. At Apex Precision, my contributions were recognized, rewarded, and built upon for future growth. But the real validation came from unexpected sources. Tommy Rodriguez, the lead machinist who'd worked with me for years at Garrison Industrial, called me 6 months after I joined Apex Precision. "Mr. Garrison, Nathan, I heard you were doing well at Apex Precision. I wanted you to know that things aren't the same at Garrison Industrial Solutions since you left." "How do you mean, Tommy?" "Production problems, quality issues, missed deadlines. Your brother's trying to run operations, but he doesn't understand the technical side. Workers are frustrated because nobody listens to their input anymore. That's why I'm calling. Apex Precision is hiring production specialists, right? I've been with Garrison for 12 years, but I'm thinking about making a change." Over the following months, 6 experienced employees left Garrison Industrial to join Apex Precision's expanding operations. Each one cited the same reasons: lack of technical leadership, deteriorating working conditions, and concern about the company's financial stability. They were right to be concerned. Federal investigators had begun examining Garrison Industrial's financial records as part of their embezzlement investigation. While the criminal case developed slowly, the scrutiny was already affecting business relationships. "Nathan, we need to discuss the Garrison industrial situation," Morrison said during one of our regular meetings. "Their clients are asking questions about our former connection to you and whether we have insights into their operational capabilities." "What kind of questions?" "Boeing is concerned about their ability to meet delivery schedules on the new defense contract. Lockheed Martin wants assurance about quality control continuity. Essentially, major clients are questioning whether Garrison can perform without your expertise." The irony was perfect. My father had fired me to protect family interests, but losing my operational knowledge was destroying the business relationships I'd spent 15 years building. That ethical approach proved strategically brilliant. When the Boeing contract came up for renewal, we won it based on superior quality systems, competitive pricing and proven delivery performance. When Lockheed Martin opened bidding for a new production line, our proposal demonstrated technical competence that Garrison Industrial couldn't match. Within 18 months, Apex Precision Industries had captured 40% of the market share that Garrison Industrial had considered secure. We were no longer the smaller competitor, we were the preferred vendor that clients chose based on performance. "Nathan, the board has approved your promotion to Vice President of Operations," Morrison announced during my 18-month review. "We're also implementing profit-sharing bonuses based on the operational improvements you've delivered." For the first time in my adult life, I was working in an environment where merit-determined advancement and respect was earned rather than inherited. Major industry publications began recognizing my work. Manufacturing Excellence magazine featured Apex Precision's operational improvements in their annual Best Practices issue. Aerospace Weekly profiled my quality control innovations as an industry model. Cleveland Business Journal named me one of their 40 under 40 business leaders. The recognition validated something fundamental. Competence could build its own reputation, independent of family name or inherited position. Meanwhile, reports from Garrison Industrial grew increasingly troubling. The end came faster than even I had anticipated. 2 years after my termination, federal prosecutors indicted Garrett on 12 counts of embezzlement, wire fraud, and money laundering. The indictment detailed a systematic scheme that had stolen over $1.2 million from Garrison Industrial's accounts over 3 years. Janet Wheeler's financial analysis had been the foundation for the federal investigation. Alex Jordan's computer forensics had provided evidence of the conspiracy to frame me. Additional accounting irregularities discovered during the investigation had revealed the full scope of Garrett's criminal activity. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 days, presenting evidence about the fabricated emails, explaining the technical systems Garrett had exploited, and describing the family dynamics that had enabled his criminal behavior. My father sat in the courtroom every day, watching his golden child's reputation and freedom destroyed by the weight of overwhelming evidence. When Garrett was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 18 years in federal prison, Loren looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. But the criminal conviction was only the beginning of Garrison Industrial's problems. The embezzlement investigation had revealed financial irregularities that went beyond Garrett's theft. The company that had once been a model of manufacturing excellence was now under comprehensive investigation for systematic misconduct. Major clients canceled contracts rather than risk association with a company under federal investigation. Boeing terminated their relationship immediately after the conviction. Lockheed Martin moved their business to competitors with higher integrity standards. Within 6 months of Garrett's conviction, Garrison Industrial had lost 70% of their client base. The company was hemorrhaging money and facing bankruptcy. Loren and I met at a neutral restaurant where we could speak privately. He looked exhausted, older, and beaten down by circumstances beyond his control. "Nathan, I owe you an apology," he began. "I was wrong about Garrett. I was wrong about the emails. I was wrong about everything. I appreciate that, Dad. But apologies don't undo 2 years of destroyed reputation and lost opportunities. The company is failing, Nathan. We're going to lose everything unless something changes dramatically. What are you asking me? Come back. Help me save what's left of Garrison Industrial. You're the only person who can turn this around." I studied my father's face, seeing genuine desperation mixed with belated recognition of what he'd lost when he fired me. "Dad, I can't come back." "Why not? We could restructure the company, give you full operational authority, make you an equal partner." "It's not about authority or inheritance. It's about trust. You chose to believe Garrett's lies over my 15 years of proven performance. You fired me without investigation and refused to examine evidence of his crimes. That's not a mistake, that's a fundamental judgment about character. So you're just going to let Garrison Industrial die? I'm going to let Garrison Industrial experience the consequences of the choices you and Garrett made. Just like I had to experience the consequences of those same choices. 3 months later, Garrison Industrial Solutions filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company was sold to a private equity firm for approximately 30 cents on the dollar. My father retained a small consulting role, but his days as an independent business owner were over. The workers who'd built careers at Garrison Industrial were absorbed by the new ownership or found positions with other manufacturers. Many of the experienced employees joined Apex Precision Industries, bringing valuable expertise that accelerated our continued growth. Tommy Rodriguez became our lead production supervisor. Janet Wheeler joined as our senior accountant. Alex Jordan's cybersecurity firm became our preferred IT vendor. Loren made one final attempt to restore our relationship, appearing at my office unannounced 6 months after the bankruptcy. Nathan, I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I want you to know that you were the better son. You were always the better son. I was just too blind to see it. Dad, I wasn't trying to be the better son. I was trying to be a good employee and earn respect through performance. Can we find a way forward? Some kind of relationship. I considered his question carefully. I don't know, Dad. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I'm not sure either of us has enough time left to undo the damage that's been done. I understand. But if you ever change your mind, I know where to find you. 5 years after being fired from my family's company for crimes I didn't commit, I was promoted to Executive Vice President of Apex Precision Industries, with equity stakes that made me a millionaire and authority over operations that employed more than 800 people. The recognition felt good, not because it proved anything to my father, but because I had built something authentic, a career based on competence, relationships founded on mutual respect, and success measured by actual contribution rather than family connections. Garrett was serving his federal prison sentence, scheduled for release in 14 years. Loren was working as a consultant for the firm that had purchased Garrison Industrial's assets. The family business that had defined our lives for decades was now a corporate division managed by strangers. But I had found something better than family legacy. I had built my own. If this story resonated with you, it's because you understand that family businesses can be breeding grounds for favoritism, nepotism, and ethical compromise. Too many competent people have experienced what Nathan faced, having their contributions minimized, their expertise dismissed, and their character questioned when family politics override professional merit. Nathan's journey shows us that sometimes the best response to family betrayal isn't reconciliation, it's building something better on your own terms. When family members use emotional manipulation to cover up criminal behavior, when parents choose favoritism over fairness, when siblings frame you for their own crimes, the healthy response is to choose competence over connection. Most importantly, this story demonstrates that professional success built on merit is more satisfying and sustainable than anything inherited through family relationships. Nathan didn't just survive his family's betrayal, he thrived by choosing colleagues who valued integrity and performance over politics and manipulation. Have you ever experienced family members who undermined your work or took credit for your achievements? How did you handle situations where family loyalty conflicted with professional integrity? Share your experiences in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story about professional competence triumphing over family favoritism, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next chilling tale where justice destroys those who abuse family trust and hard work defeats inherited privilege. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is building something so successful that your betrayers realize exactly what they lost when they chose lies over loyalty.